We learn the history from the perspective of who the victor is. Christopher Columbus never made it to America. He never did.
The slave trade moving first through Puerto Rico.
Yes. And it's where the actual selling and buying of slaves was actually beginning. And then from Puerto Rico, it went to Jamaica, Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and then ultimately to the Americas. Puerto Rico was already had people in there before Christopher Columbus.
So before the Spaniards get there, they were Tainos Indians.
Yes, Taino Indians. There was a lot of Moors that were connected with the Spaniards at the time.
Yeah.
Both Jewish Moors and both Islamic Moors, because they'd been to the Americas before, so they knew the travel and the direction of it.
Oh, pot is good
all the time,
and all the time.
Pot is good.
My guy TJ Tejeda.
Man, what's up, man? What's up,
I'm
Cashmere?
good. I'm good, bro. Pot is good.
All the time.
And all the time.
Pot is good.
I'm happy to do this with you, bro. How have you been, my guy?
Man, I've been good. Working hard, raising kids. You know how it is.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
Hey, I'm here. Come on, shoot me. I know you got a lot of questions. We always be chopping it up, and we've been wanting to do this for a while.
You already know.
Hey, come on.
Hey, man,
I know you got rebuttals. I know we don't always agree on everything, but these are things that
right. But hopefully we do more disagreeing with what they tried to teach us across the years, more so than what we, you know what I'm saying? Because you know the reason they taught that to us is so that we would disagree later. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's how I go. So I'm here to learn from you, my brother. My pushback is all to learn. That's it.
Yeah,
it's all to get a better understanding.
I definitely understand it. You know what I'm saying? I understand where you're coming from. I was like that at a moment.
Yeah.
In my life too. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, why something's missing in everything that they're teaching us, right? So I mean, I love history from the beginning. So I dig into a lot of stuff, try to see where it comes from and how did we get here. And to tell you the truth, we're all in a sense interconnected regardless of what we expect and think.
Yeah.
More than we actually know. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. I mean, people don't understand the truth because they don't want to understand it. Because if you do get the truth, then you have a choice to make. You can either stay ignorant or you can come and grow from it.
Yeah, it changes everything. Because it's the red and blue pill. You know what I mean? It literally it's literally the Matrix.
Hey, they don't got a purple pill. You know what I'm saying?
They don't got one.
They don't got one. You know, you got
to
choose one or the other. You know what I'm saying?
That is a fact. Yeah, it's funny you say that, man. Like I realize how much I enjoy history as well. Like when I was, in school and they're kind of like forcing history on you, whatever. Like there was only one thing I remember really getting lost in and loving when I was learning history in school, and that was the gold rush. I don't know why, but something about the gold rush, it got me. And I was like learning the generals' names or remembering the people. Like I was in.
Man, because you was living in that area from what you're telling me. You was up there.
I was. So maybe that's what it was. It felt like right around the corner. Maybe you're right.
You could find some gold.
Right.
Find some gold in the backyard or something.
Facts. But yeah, man, like I realized like I became like a big history buff over the years. And like I remember watching America, the story of us on I think it was the History Channel. Tons of documentaries on World War II and yeah, just over time I realized like, wow, I really dig this. And the other day I actually had like this full circle, like come to realization moment that like, yo, my podcast is like a history show. It really is. Like it's almost like, you know what I mean? It's like a podcast disguised as like a history or a history show disguised as a podcast, because that's all I'm doing is finding out about, your history, the history of the area that you were from, the history of the organization you were a part of, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah,
everything that we talk about is what happened. You know what I mean? Like, what's transpired so we can inspire. That's the whole show.
and it makes sense. I mean, that's the thing. One thing about history, and I learned from it, is that history is normally written by the victor, right?
Mm,
So a lot of times that when we listen, even especially American history, right?
yeah,
We learn the history from the perspective of who the victor is, not the person that lost the war or
that's
that
a
lost the fight or anything like that.
that's a
So
fact.
we only get one sided.
Yeah,
So when you only get one sided and you don't see, okay, what's the other perspective from what the other individuals, because they have history too. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So
right,
regardless of, for example, the Union and the Confederates, right? Confederates have history also that is told from them and their perspective
yeah,
all the way to the point that the war started, right?
yeah.
After that moment, their history has kind of been disappeared,
That's true.
right? Has disappeared, and we only push the history that comes from the North as and what the Union did according to the United States, right?
Yeah,
So we have to a certain level be able to have discernment, right? And be able to see and acknowledge that there's truth in both ends, right?
facts. Yeah,
It's not your truth, my truth. No, there's actual truth,
on both sides. Yeah,
but on both sides, and
yeah,
then you have to piece them together to see what the whole view of the picture is. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
yeah. No, that's facts. 'Cause I remember when I first learned that we lost the Vietnam War.
yes,
Right.
actually, we never. It was never necessarily a loss of the Vietnam War. It was more of a how you would say the, we didn't lose the Vietnam War, but we weren't winning the Vietnam War. It was a war that we went
Yeah, that
in
sounds like a
there.
loss in America's terms. If
It
we were
is,
losing and
but
then we backed out because we were getting decimated, that kind of feels like that's an L.
well, it is in the view of we looking at sports or anything like that. It
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
but you can't tell your soldiers that you lost that war. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell your Marines that you lost a war,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
because then what does that look for their morale or the people that lived through that war, right? You're gonna tell them they lost a war and they're coming home and they're gonna feel less than what they already are,
But
right?
we can't lie. I
So
mean, we can't lie to you.
you're it's true. We're not supposed to lie,
When we
right?
left, when we left, when we left camp, we said we might win, we may lose. Some of us may lose our lives. You can't come back like it was a toddler, volleyball game
Well,
and everybody's winners and everybody gets a ribbon
and
because you participated.
so the truth I would say with the Vietnam War is what made it so worse, and the reason why we start really pulling out. It was a real, true first televised war.
Mm,
Meaning, is from World War I, World War II, they had cameras, but it was shot, and then you wouldn't see the things 2 3 months later. The Vietnam War was actually in what you per se real time, right? So we like it was the first real time war that the public was able to actually see was really going on and how it affected both Vietnam and the America and how it was decimating those the individuals that were encountered in the war. You know what I'm
I thought
saying?
that
So
was I thought the Civil War was the first one that started happening. So you saying it was the Vietnam War?
no, the Vietnam was the first televised media war.
Hmm.
Like, okay, so when we were remember when like, I will say like this, I was in the Iraq War, right?
Okay.
So in 2003, the Iraq War hit. You had the first big battle was the Battle of Fallujah, right? And the media was like right in there, like reporters was right in there in the middle of the gunfights and stuff like that, reporting what's going on in
Wow.
Fallujah.
Wow.
Vietnam was that first type of war.
Wow.
It was that first type of war that actual reporters that were in there doing the reporting in the midst of fighting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
That's interesting.
that war, because it was viewed by the public and how gruesome it wasn't a pretty view for the U.S. You know what I'm saying?
Not at
So
all.
because at that moment we were considered a superpower.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it
Mm.
wasn't a good look for the U.S. at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
so that,
But
but that's why I brought up the Vietnam War in regards to the story being told, history being told by the victor,
yeah,
because I always wondered, well, what do the Vietnam books, what do they look like when they talk about the
yeah,
Vietnam War? Like when they are referencing the Viet Cong and how those groups went to, like, small spaces in an area that they knew very well, and
hmm
basically took out American soldiers at will.
yeah,
I know how our books sound when we talk about Vietnam, but what do your books sound like? Because you guys were more of the victor in that one than us.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But I'm with you though. I'm with you though, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very interesting point. Is like how media played a part in different wars and how it's developed. And I didn't know that you were in a that was what, Operation Iraqi Freedom or something like that.
yeah, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that you were involved in that. So, with that being said, that's a good transition to, like, let's tell people a little bit about you real quick. Tell us where you from, a little bit about your background, if you don't mind, sir.
Okay. So, man, where I start? Well, I'm actually from. I'm Puerto Rican. I was born in Puerto Rico, but my dad is Dominican. So he's from Dominican Republic, the island, pretty much neighborhood.
Okay.
And I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in Dominican Republic, and my family moved from there. They moved to New York, and from New York, I ended up residing at 9 years old all the way till I joined the military in Miami. Right, so Florida is my home. Um, I'm Florida everything in sports, baseball, lifestyle, everything.
I
So,
know Dolphins. I know.
and I joined the military when I was 18, 2004. When I graduated, did
Okay.
2 tours in Iraq.
Respect. Respect.
After I got out, joined the Army Reserve out here in California, and this is where I reside now. Um, did 6 years in the Army Reserve on that, and while I was doing that, I got my master's and my bachelor's in business and human resources, and I'm a barber. Right, when I got a master, but I ended up being a barber,
Okay.
something that I love.
Yeah.
And man, I get to interact with people all the time from all different ages, backgrounds, different experiences.
Yeah.
So it allows me to, especially when it comes to history, you get to talk to the guys that were actually, I talk to a lot of vets and stuff. So they tell you exactly what's going on from not just their perspective because they lived it, but what's going on during the time that we're going through and how America was different then than it is now.
Mm.
And I could compare and contrast
Yeah.
so yeah.
So how many years was that you were enlisted in the military?
So total it would be 10 years.
10 years
So
total.
6 years reservist, 4 years active. So total you would say 10 years.
10 years. And what made you make that choice? You said you made that choice in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um Man, I always was intrigued with the uniform. At first I wanted to be a cop, right?
Mm,
But I saw Saving Private Ryan. That's actually the movie that I saw.
mm,
And that movie clicked. And then after that was The Thin Red Line, which was a phenomenal movie. It was based on Vietnam. And those are the two movies that I love to this day. And
great.
I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. So
Okay, but right there, I want to peek into that moment, because for people that don't understand a soldier's quest to defend their country, a soldier's heart to make
Mhm.
that decision that, like, I'm willing to put my life on the line. It's one thing to hear somebody say, "Yeah, I just that was the moment." You know what I mean? Like, once I saw that uniform, something clicked. But to those that don't understand that, like, well, what clicked? What about it? What about those movies? What about seeing those soldiers made you go, "That's my purpose"? Like, that should be me.
I think it's the pride, right? I mean, uh, the fact that I'm a Christian, the Bible says the man that dies for his friend, that's the ultimate sacrifice. I'm paraphrasing that, right?
Mhm.
So a friend that dies for another friend,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what true love is. That's the
Mm.
ultimate sacrifice, right? Something that you can do to somebody else and you don't even know them, but able to save their life,
Yeah.
right? The camaraderie, the brotherhood that brings people from different parts of the United States and brings them together to fight for one purpose, you can't change that. You know what I'm saying? To this day, uh, I got friends that I'm real close with that we served together in war, and
Mm.
I talk to them on the regular, right? Um, you can't change that. Nobody can change that. It's something that you have to be there in order to understand.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Why I wanted to do it, man, it was a uniform. I ain't gonna lie. You look badass. You know what I'm saying? So,
Oh, that's what it was. It was like, I just want to go look
hey,
cool, baby. I just
hey, yeah, you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? I was like, hey, it is what it is. Uh,
All
but
right.
no, it was. We didn't have Call of Duty at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
It just started.
Right, right.
So, but I always wanted to do that. Not only that, I had an uncle. He was in the army in Dominican Republic. He was part of the army in Dominican Republic, and I
Mm,
always seen his uniform and how everything was. Then I had a teacher in fourth grade. Actually, not fourth grade. It was in the sixth grade, Mr. Days. He was a former Marine, and he had a big poster of the United States Marine Corps in his uniform.
mm,
And I was like, "Yo, that's a that
yeah.
uniform is killer." And he was like, "Oh, you like that? Oh, Marines are the best, right?" You know what I'm saying? I was like, "For real?" I was like, "All right." So when I got to high school, I
Mm,
saw Saving Private Ryan came out probably like 99, 2000 or something like that.
yeah.
Um, I saw Saving Private Ryan and I was like, yo, even though you see the gruesomeness of through the war and
Mm,
all that, it was the camaraderie that you saw that the person can see something and be not saying that you're not scared. Of course you're scared, but
right.
to be able to compartmentalize all that and still be able to go through your mission after you done seen something. Like I was like, yo, I want to be part of that. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Which is crazy to say that because I was like at that time I was probably like 12, 13, right? So my
Wow.
dad was like, yo, you tripping? Like you ain't gonna do none of that. So it was crazy, man.
But but hold on real quick. You know what? That is such a good point that you just made, because I was saying this to my wife. Like, sometimes when you're young and you decide to do something so easily, you don't realize how much that is probably your calling, because you don't realize how the next person may not have made that decision like you that easily. Like, the certain things that I decided I wanted to be, to me, I was just like, oh yeah, everybody want to be that. But I didn't realize till later on, it's like, nah, most people would be scared to try to do that or try to be on stage in
Yeah,
front of thousands of people. Like, that ain't a normal thing that everybody wants to do. So, like, for you, just seeing Saving Private Ryan, I'm gonna tell you right now, most people did not go, yeah, I want that to be me. That was not
yeah,
what they concluded from that. So the fact
yeah.
that's how it spoke to you says that was in you the whole time. You just needed something to, like, pull it out, basically.
Well, in the story of Saving Private Ryan, it was the selflessness.
Yeah.
So if the reason why it's called Saving Private Ryan is because the family, the Ryan's family, it was four brothers, right? Three of them, all four of them went to war. Three
Right.
of them had died. So the I don't know if it's a constitutional or military thing, but all four brothers, three of them died, and they said that the family name has to live on. So
Hmm.
we have to go look for for Private Ryan, and we have to make sure that he gets home safe,
Hmm.
so he could keep the family name going
Yeah.
because all four sons died,
Wow.
right? So
Wow.
that's a selflessness
Absolutely.
that they had to take on to save this young man because all his brothers were dead. They all died at war. And they had to make sure, no matter if they gave their life, but he had to make it home alive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so many people died to make sure that he got to make it home alive.
That's dope.
You know.
That's dope.
So that resonated with me. I thought
As a 13-year
I
old.
want to do that. Pretty much, yeah.
That's dope.
You know what
That's
I'm
dope.
saying? So I realized that once I was an adult, like, yo,
Hmm.
that's really something I wanted to do. Um, so I went through high school. I started, I went to when I got to high school, I was like, yo, I want to join. What can I sign? And he's like, yo, you're too young. You know what I'm saying? So my dad was
Wow.
like, yo, you tripping. So I started doing the whole thing. I played sports, so now that football, wrestling.
Yeah.
So once I got a junior, I was able to be able to, you know, become a pulley. So I
Hmm.
did. Um, the situation at home wasn't going too good. So I found it like the best way to get out since I always wanted to join the military anyways. I was like, yo, I don't want to be home no more. I'm going to join the military.
Hmm.
And, and that's when 9/11 hit, right? So 2003, 9/11 hit. We at
Was
school.
that
I
hold on?
was,
Was that before you joined or after?
yeah, no, before I joined.
Did that
So I
shake
was
you at all?
already, it shaped me, but it empowered me. It angered me, right? So it was like, yo, how can somebody do this to us, right? And I was like, you know what? That really solidified it there. 9/11 hit. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably a year away. I was sophomore going to junior year, and I
Hmm.
was like, yo, I'm joining, like for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? '01, I'm joining. I'm about to graduate in '04.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm dead.
It's a
So 9/11 was like that really lit the match, right? So I was like, told my dad, turned 17. I told my dad, I went to the recruiting office, got the paperwork. I said, hey, sign me. He was like, nah, I'm not signing you. I was like, sign me. It's either that or when I turn 18, I'm signing myself and you can't do anything about it. You know what I'm saying? And I told him, if you don't sign it, I'm going to leave and you won't see me again. So I kind of gave him an ultimatum.
we
So,
we ain't even gonna get into that tonight. That sounds like a
yeah.
whole other story that we.
Oh, trust me, it was.
That's a whole
But
other story.
but it but that's
Yeah.
really what happened, right? So, and my dad, man, my dad went to the recruiting office, man, and my dad, I ain't gonna lie, man, my dad is 4 feet 11 inches. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? But this dude looked like Incredible Hulk. You know what I'm saying? When he come in, like he got that mouth. And you be like, damn, I didn't know this dude sound like, you know, like King Kong when he over. You know what I'm saying? So he went into the recruiting office. You trying to
Yeah.
brainwash my son? Da da da. So he's
Mm.
like, yo, you really want to go? I was like, yeah, dad, I really want to go. I was like, all right, you know. So I joined the Marine Corps, did my thing, and went through school because you gotta choose a job to join the military. It's not just being infantry. Um, when you take the ASVAB test, they give you a number, and
Mm.
depending on how high you score, that's the type of job that you qualify for a certain amount of jobs, right? So I wanted to be a radio operator. I wanted to be
Mm.
a grunt with a backpack, right? But
Okay.
I scored too high. I scored too high on the test, right? So they was like, "Yo, no, man, you." I was like, "We can't lose." You know, what I'm saying, a person of your caliber to to just gunfire. Like we got to use your brain. So they put me as a generator operator and mechanic. So it's called electrical equipment repair specialist. So
Hmm.
my job was pretty much to maintain and power up. I was a generator. I power up the command centers. I power up the hospitals, the medevacs, the everything that needed importance. Right. I was the one that provided the power through the generator, maintained them, fixed them, and did all that while I was, there. Um, I did my two tours in Iraq. One was in Al Qaim, Al Assad, TQ, Al Ramadi, and Fallujah. Those were the areas that I went to. So it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Um, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I seen a lot, but I don't trade it for nothing in the world. It actually um, made me love history even more because one thing that a lot of people don't know that Iraq is Babylon.
Huh.
So you you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
yo, I was stepping in Babylon.
Wow. Yeah,
You
I
know
know.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
is is what Babylon used to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So um imagine this is an area where historical and uh is parts of the Bible.
Yeah.
Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah. Uh Tell her I'm in an interview right now. I'll be right there.
Dad
My
work.
bad. Yeah, that work.
Dad
Um
work.
so yeah, so that really was really what opened my eyes. I was like, damn, you know,
Yeah.
uh God's people were here
Yeah.
at a certain
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
right? So and it went from there, And when I got out, I joined the Army Reserves. I was an ammunition supply at that moment, um, and just did my time as reservist and got out
Yeah.
and kept going. And it was good.
So we'll definitely have to have you back on to go into that more, because one thing I learned from having my cousin Reg from the Sev on, and him talking about his tours, um, which he was out there at Operation Iraqi Freedom as well, is that there's a lot of layers. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? There's a lot of layers. There's what you what you expected. There's what you experienced. There's what you were told. There's what you realized. There's what you walked away with.
yeah,
There's, you know what I mean? There's sights and smells and sounds that um you'll never forget. And so I know that there's a robust amount of detail lying in that space of those 10 years in the armed service. But for today, I will say salute you for your service, soldier. We appreciate you.
appreciate it.
Um, and I do want to get into this history that we've been teetering around. I don't want people to kind of
Right.
get a background of you, and I think they understand you a little more now. They understand kind of where you've been, in the United States, and where your father's from, and your nationality and serving in the war, and that's a good basis to, buy you some credibility, at least for today. So, so
Oh
with
man.
that being said, um, we were in the shop one day,
Yeah.
and we got into this conversation about the slave trade moving first through Puerto Rico,
Yes.
before slaves made it to America. Now, of course, history never told us that in our books. I don't know what they were in Puerto Rico, but here we ain't hear nothing about that. We heard uh, Africa to here.
Yeah.
We heard Nina what was it? The Nina, the
Pinta and Santa
Pinta, and the
Maria.
Santa Maria. We heard
Yeah.
those. We heard Pilgrims. We ain't hear nothing about no Puerto Ricans
Yes.
at all.
So it's
Never.
funny. Hey, I get you. You know what I'm saying? So the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, believe it or not, yes, it's true with Christopher Columbus.
Mhm.
Now, Christopher Columbus never made it to America. He never did. Never made it to America. His expedition
Yeah,
started
I've heard
in
this before, but I'll be honest. If any kids were in here right now, they'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, what? No, hold
yeah, he made it to the Americas, but
on."
never America. You know, do you get what I'm saying? Not the
I get it.
United
Oh, I
States
get
of
it.
America,
I get it.
but he
Yes.
did make it to the Americas. So he
Talk to him.
he
Talk to
did, but but he did.
him.
Well, my family's Puerto Rican. You know, my mom and my grandma from my mom's side, we actually have African ancestry
Hmm.
in our from my mother's side. You know what I'm saying? She's actually was, from Africa and came out here. Now, was she a slave? I don't believe so. Um, our family never told us that, right? But um, the reason why Puerto Rico, all the slaves came in is because they had the biggest port between Spain and to the Americas. It was like the middle place, right? It was where people refueled, we refuel not on real fuel, but as far as food,
Right.
supplies, all that, and it's where the selling and buying of slaves was actually beginning at.
Hmm.
The reason why they call it rich port is what Puerto Rico is rich port. And it was the best area military wise that had it still stands to this day in Puerto Rico that had both view where you have the cannons facing the ocean, so no enemy could come and try to sabotage and steal um the slaves or the property that they were coming in.
Hmm.
So it had to come through Puerto Rico,
Hmm.
and then from Puerto Rico it went to Jamaica, Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and then ultimately to the Americas, both
Gotcha.
South America and North America.
Gotcha. I actually
So
think that I
that's
went there
to
because I
what
was.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I think I went to that spot that you're talking about. I know that sounds random for you to say that. I'm like,
I
oh
was
yeah,
like,
I
what?
think I was there.
You went there? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you was part of the slave trade. That just played.
Um, no, that was when we went on. Was that was just a trip? I think it was one of our anniversary trips. We went to Puerto Rico, and like, is this familiar?
You had to. I believe so. Yeah, I can't see from there. You got it.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Do me right, phone.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
right there. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah,
You thought I was messing around. You thought I would
yeah,
be out here like that.
yeah,
I'm in the streets, bro. I'm in the streets, even
yeah,
the Puerto Rican streets. Come on, talk to me. All right, keep going.
yeah. So, but but Puerto Rico was already had people in there before Christopher Columbus were there.
Right.
So there were the Taino Indians or the Arawak. That's what
Hmm.
they Arawak speaking.
The
And the
Taino
Taino,
Indians or the Arawak.
yeah, it was the Arawak people. They
Okay.
came to know by the Spaniard. They were came to know to be Tainos.
Hmm.
Taino meaning good people.
Hmm.
Um, so but they call them Borinque. That's what we call ourselves, Borinque. So they call the island Borinque. The Tainos were calling the island the Borinque. So if you ever hear Puerto Rican be like, "Yeah, what up, man? I'm Boricua." Borinque, Boricua comes from the word Borinque. You know what I'm saying?
Taino
So
and Taino and Borinque.
yeah, so
Okay.
in my
That sounds
just
like
to
Big
show
Pun
you,
right there. That sound like Big Pun.
it
Taino,
is.
Borinque, Taino.
So
He could have did that. He could have.
so let me to give you one of the notes that I took today. So
Okay.
it was when the Spanish got here, they called the island the Borinque.
Okay.
The Spaniards did, right?
Okay.
And to where we use it now, we say, "Yo, I'm Boricua." That means if I say I'm Boricua, I mean I'm Puerto Rican,
Hmm.
right? But it was from but the term came from the Taino. Is what it came from the Spaniards naming them for the Tainos, the Taino Indians. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So is it was a mix of because Taino Indians were, how do you say that, they were travelers, right? So it came to find out that Taino Indians go as far south to the Caribbean islands of Brazil to
Wow.
where Puerto Rico. But then also Tainos, they find out that Taino Indians are also part of Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. So they resided in those areas. So they were like fishermen, travelers, you know, kind of, I don't want to say it like that, but like, how like in the movie The Moana, like
Uh-huh.
the travelers and the book,
Oh
that's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of what, yeah. So Taino Indians were like that in a sense, right?
Okay.
So the Spanish flu was really, they believe that the Spanish flu was what killed the Tainos off, right?
Oh wow.
But just like 5 years ago, 5 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on that. I gotta get the date right. They found out that every Puerto Rican has actual Taino DNA in them. So it's more of Tainos assimilated
Hmm.
with both the Africans and the Spaniards to make sure that they essentially didn't die off.
Didn't die
Every
off.
Puerto Rican
Wow.
has a DNA of the Tainos in them.
Of the
You know what I'm
Tainos.
saying? Yeah,
And
or
so let me
Indians.
make sure I caught that right. So before the Spaniards get there, they were Tainos Indians.
Yes,
Bo-
Taino Indians were
Borinque.
there. Borinque, yeah.
Borinque. When the Spaniards came,
And
what did they
colonized the island.
but what did they call them? Did they call them Borinque?
They
Or did
didn't
they
know
call it their own term?
that's the Borinque. They were called, that's what they called it.
Okay, so that's what I
That's what
meant.
they
So,
called it.
so, so sorry, then I said it wrong. So before the
Yeah.
Spaniards ever got there, they were only Tainos.
Yeah.
That no one said Borinque, no one said
No.
Boricua, none of that.
No. No.
Then
It
the
was the
Spaniards,
Spaniards.
then the Spaniards came,
Yeah.
start calling them that, and then
Yeah.
now they might say, "I'm Boricua."
Yeah.
All right,
They stuck with them. You know what
let
I'm
me ask
saying?
you something, bro. Let me ask you something because it's I'm starting to notice this when it comes to them coming to different areas. It feels like they come to an area, they decide a new name that they just gonna start calling people. That's not the crazy part. To me, the crazy part is then we start calling ourselves that. Like, how that happened? Like
I don't know.
we were African, and then it was like, no, you black, and I'll be like, yeah, we black. Like,
I don't know about that, man.
yeah, Tainos is
I
a
could
dope
say
name. Like Tainos
it
it
is,
rolls
but
great. I gotta think
it
about it when I
is,
say Borinque, because I see I gotta keep like, but Tainos,
yeah,
that's close. Like that's smooth.
yeah. It's crazy, man. It's
I don't get it. I
but
don't get
I
it.
mean, that was, I guess that was, it started out as a nickname, right? Because they were merchants, right? So it came as trades. It first became as trades and do do things, gold, silver, guns, whatever it is, right? You show us your goods as far as food, what you guys have, and we'll help you over here. And how do we start civilizing? At first, it
Yeah,
was peaceful, of course,
yeah,
um, and then of course the transatlantic slave began, which was a business.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's the economy of the time.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So of course, when when North America, which we'll say the United States was headed by five different nations. You would say the Northeast was Britain. The southern part was England. Florida was Portuguese. The middle part from Louisiana all the way to Minnesota was French, and everything from Texas to the west was Spain. That was all
Hmm.
controlled by Spain, where Mexico resides now. That's all controlled by Spain. So if you notice,
Interesting.
the biggest uh, Spain have one of the Spain and Portuguese. They ran the slave trade for economic reasons
Yeah.
during that time. You know what I'm saying? So they needed needed a place to reside to make sure that they do the business in. Puerto Rico was the best stronghold
Hmm.
for where it was, and they set up shop there, and then they start moving around. You know,
Yeah.
but Puerto Rico did have slaves themselves. You know what I'm saying? The Spaniards that colonized there, they turned
Oh, Spaniards.
slaves. So some were indentured servants, but some were actual slaves. You know what I'm saying? So the with the Spanish flu and almost killing almost all the Tainos, a lot of Tainos assimilated to the people, both Spaniards and Africans.
Do
You
you know
know,
much about the Moors' history of that time?
the Moors,
Yeah.
no, I will have to look into it. I know the Moors also were also travelers, and there was a lot of Moors that were connected with the Spaniards at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
both Jewish Moors and both Islamic Moors. Um, because they've been to the Americas before, so
Yeah.
they knew the travel and the direction of it. Have gone into real deep into it? No, I haven't. It
Hmm.
wasn't. I'm looking more into Puerto Rico and why Puerto Rico is where it's at right now. Um, why we are so prideful of being Puerto Rican, regardless of what it is. Because in many ways, we have a lot of struggles that we had to go through. You know what I'm saying? So just like any person, we got African American, Irish,
Yeah.
Italian, we all have our things to go through. But you know, to go with the what's going on with Puerto Rico, um, Puerto Rico was kind of founded in 1805 by Ponce de Leon, right? Christopher Columbus came in here, but it was Ponce de Leon that came and named the Puerto Rico Puerto Rico. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It was San Juan, the capital, was called Puerto Rico before, but
Hmm.
then everybody start naming the island Puerto Rico, and it stuck, and then they renamed the capital San Juan. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But Ponce de Leon was the general that came and renamed the the island. You know what I'm saying?
And did he bring any
The city,
religious
and not
direction with him as well?
well at that time everybody, because the colony, Spain was the religion of that time was Christian.
So
You know
Spain
what I'm saying?
Spain brought Christianity to
Into the
the
region,
Tainos.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So
Okay.
Spain brought Christianity into the region.
Okay.
But that's because of the Roman Catholic Church and the story behind all that. So the Roman Catholic Church was the powerhouse. It said when it came to the religion
Yeah.
in that region of Europe, of the western part of it, which in many sense I kind of thank God that they brought it to the region because now I know my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ,
Amen.
and without knowing that, you know, we
Yeah.
could get mad of the history, but
Right.
understand that at the end, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ bled for me so I could be saved. So I thank them in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but so Ponce de Leon, um, he was the one. It was Cachat. Let me make sure I get the name right. I don't want to butcher it. My Puerto Rican family gonna be like, "Yo, you butchered the name." Um, it's
You're right.
Caparra. So the
Capada.
city was named Caparra. Yeah. So the
Capada.
city San Juan was named Caparra. and then he renamed it Puerto Rico. I kind of see why he
Mm.
renamed it Puerto Rico, because I would have butchered Caparra all the time if we were talking about that right
And they
now.
would have.
But
And they would have.
yeah, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
So he renamed it Puerto Rico. So and now the capital is called San Juan. You know what I'm saying? So
Got it.
Juan Ponce de Leon is his name, and they
Yeah.
named the city San Juan after him. You would say,
Got it. The city
you
is
know,
named after Ponce de Leon. I did not know that.
yeah.
Juan
So
Ponce de Leon. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
That's fire.
So during the 16th century is when they bought most of the slave. It's during the 1600s, you know, is when they brought most slaves in there, and it was to produce rice, sugar, tobacco. You know what I'm saying? Which was the economic boom of that time. If you think about it, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're doing rice, tobacco, sugar, and you're taking it back to Spain, that's the
Yeah.
economic boom. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's
I mean, I
crazy.
get it.
And I guess you have to do it with free labor because I mean, that's a lot that's a lot of weight to get all the way
Hmm.
back to Spain on a
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
So,
so you got to go get your labor in Africa. Do you know of all of the enslaved peoples during that time in Spain? I mean, in Spain and Puerto Rico, were they all Africans, or did they also bring enslaved people from other areas?
as far as we know, as far as I know, majority were African. But I wouldn't put it past that they had indentured servants from other areas. You know what I'm saying?
And
That
so
there were endangered in how do you say
enslaved,
slaves, yeah, from other areas that you had to work your way. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? From
yeah.
there, I wouldn't put it past that. I mean, if America did it, I wouldn't see why Spain couldn't have done it also. So
I want
I
people to
mean,
really think about that, like in a financial sense, like just kind of thinking about a business, right?
yeah,
Because for a second, let's take the humanity and the heart out of it the same way they did, and look at it in black and white business. Like how valuable were these crops to sell boats from Africa, well, from Spain to Africa, get slaves. You got to keep those slaves alive. You want to keep as many alive as possible. These enslaved people,
hmm,
you don't want them to die along the way of
yeah,
disease and malnutrition and dehydration. So you have to feed them. So now you got hundreds or thousands of people. On top of that, you have pounds and pounds of food. I'm not saying it's, no four-course meal, sadly, but still, it is food, and likely because it's such cheap food, it's heavy.
yeah,
You're not giving people salads.
yeah,
You're giving them grain. You're giving them things that you can give them just enough to keep them alive, right? You get them there. The crops gotta grow. That ain't an overnight thing. It's not like you going and making an iPhone. Like
yeah,
the earth has to, you know what I mean, has to bring these crops about. They're tending to the land. Then you get the crops, package it all back up, and go all the way back to Spain before you sell it.
yeah,
Dude, that's think about that. Like not many we struggling now with all the tariffs and import export in one direction. Like all the
yeah.
stuff is already there, just bringing it one direction. Going back and forth, that's bananas.
So, and that's the thing is that in, I would say I could twist I could think about it logically and not have it my emotional way, right? Because think about it. If
Yeah,
I buy an island for $7 million now in
right,
2025,
right,
and I want to start building in the island, how am I going to get people to do it? Endangered servants, right? What
right,
we call is what people do with illegal immigrants now, right? They don't hire the citizens because they got to pay them a fair wage.
right,
They pretty much hire people at a lower age
right,
to do the job, right?
right.
So essentially, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah,
We if we take our emotion of it, it was all economics. Was
Right.
it right? No, it wasn't right.
Not at
You know
all.
what I'm saying? It was actually, the Christians, right, that saw that, you know, and they were the one that pushed for the abolishment of slavery,
Not these.
and
Maybe y'all Christians, not our Christians. Maybe I don't know about the Spaniard, Taino. I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna keep it real with you. Our Christians was like, yo, our Bible says you a slave. we,
well, see,
we ain't trying to get rid of nothing.
but in that aspect, you have to think about it is if I want to keep control of certain people to
Exactly.
do a certain thing,
Yeah.
you do that, right?
Yeah.
That
Manipulation.
doesn't mean that it was right, and that doesn't mean that
Right.
that goes to show that those people weren't Christians
Facts.
because the Bible tells you exactly,
Yeah. They
what to
just
do if you have somebody that is a slave and how you're supposed to treat them, and you know that you have to give them their dues at the end of their time because they were essentially they were employees,
yeah.
right? In the Bible, they were employees. So if that goes to show that those people weren't Christians. So for us to say, hey, Christian did that, we got to remember that we're all sinners individually, right? And if we have an evil heart, even we could proclaim that we're Christians.
Right.
If we have an evil heart, we're going to do evil things. So, we have to, you know, get the emotional part out of it and actually think about what's really going on, how did it work, and how the economy worked at that time in order for us to get to the point that we are.
Right.
We're not saying it's right. I'm not
Right.
approving of it.
You're not
All I'm,
condoning it. I
yeah,
get it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not condoning it. I just
Yeah.
have to understand that, that's the economic part of the time.
Right.
And they did what they had to do in order to grow to where we are today. You
Yeah.
know what
And
I'm saying?
in
So,
order to view history um in an enlightened space, you kind of have to be able to sit
accept
in
the
each
ugly.
seat,
Yeah,
right? Accept the ugly, and you got to be able to sit in each seat and really process it from that point. You got to be
yeah,
able to process it from the enslaved person. You got to process it from the slave owner. You got to process it from the people that are just doing business in the area. May not have enslaved peoples, may not agree with it. However, they do have a family, and that is the business that's
yeah,
going on. Like you have to be able to move around each of those groups or each of those types of persons and say okay, because until you
mhm,
do that it'll always just be one thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It'll always just be yes, it's negative, like no one's taking that away. I
yeah,
don't care how much money came out of it. I don't care how many millionaires of that time were erected from it. That don't mean nothing. Still was wrong. But if you want to understand why the millionaire did it, you can't just look at him and say, oh, he was just the devil. Like,
yeah,
well, back up and actually be that person. Like you said, if you bought an island, be that person. You're not saying that that's what you would do, but you're saying like,
yeah,
hey, if I am in that situation, if I don't have boats, if there are people that are here that don't have anything, if I do have the whatever the mechanisms to try to get them to do, hey, maybe that person says this might be my only opportunity.
yeah.
And again, it ain't right. We ain't gonna keep
No, no,
standing on
no.
it. We
Yeah,
know it ain't
definitely.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
It
That
is what
ain't
it is.
it ain't right. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
It's history though. It is history. It's
It is
factual,
right.
and we got to deal with it like history. You can't shy away from any of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I now we're kind of fast forwarding past the slave and all this. How Puerto Rico became part of the United States or a colony of the United States, you will say, is through the Spanish American War. So there was a time that the people were starting to uprise against the Spaniards. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? In
Yeah.
all area, in Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, right? And of course, what America does. We're right here, right? And this was like what 1898, something like that, late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay.
America was starting to become America, the
Hmm.
superpower,
Yeah.
right? So America was like, "Yo, what's the best way to get some land grab?" I'm paraphrasing there.
I got you.
So America America came in and they beat up on the Spaniard, and the Spaniards seceded. You know what I'm saying? And that's how America was able to get Guam, Puerto Rico, let me see, Philippines, Cuba. So, which is
Hmm.
crazy. And that's how America was able to buy and build Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Because a lot of people don't know why we have Guantanamo Bay. So that happened through the Spanish American War that they actually signed a treaty and they seceded. Like Spain was like, yo, okay, we're done with this. And we're gonna allow these people to govern themselves, right? But America was like, okay, we see what we have and we see the areas that Spain had and why they have it, because Spain was smart when it came in how they ran their military. And the U.S., if you think of Guam, Guam is over there by, the Philippines, by China, all
Yeah.
that. Whereas Puerto Rico's, close to Cuba, keep an eye on Cuba, right? Communist
Hmm.
country right outside. So while at that time, Cuba wasn't communist, it was under Spain. But it now fast forwarding in 2025, you can see like, yo, what? I
Huh.
can't believe that Americans had the foreshadow at that time
Yeah.
to make those things now. So
Diabolical.
man, you know what I'm saying?
Diabolical, boy.
Hey, but that goes to show like, yeah, it's diabolical, but they were super smart in foreseeing, these things. You know what I'm saying? So
And I
for
only
them,
say diabolical because it's like it takes a certain mindset to even look at that. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? To be looking down the road at those types of things. And some cultures, um, they have a history that's rich in that, like going and pillage and plundering and taking over and conquering. Like that's just their thing. I mean, it's a human condition. Let me start
yeah.
there. But some groups of humans um seem to have it rich in their history more than others. And then others seem to be more of peaceful people that are just trying to get along, in the land that they're in. And it's almost kind of like you know, the
Well,
hunt,
I
the
mean,
hunter and the hunted sometimes.
I get what you're saying on that, but if we really put it in the nucleus from the beginning, right? There's really only been essentially 5 countries, and by from the background that we really know, if you go back in history, let's say Spain, England, Britain, Portugal, and let me see, they were all family members. They were all cousins, right? But they wanted to, like, kind of how Alexander the Great did. They want to overreach their powers. You know, France did. They did what they did. They colonized where they colonized. Portugal did the same thing. So did the England. So did the Britain. Spaniards did it the best. That's why Latin America is mostly everybody speaks Spanish in Latin America. And then in the West, everybody speaks English. You know what I'm saying? And in some areas, we speak French. So it tells you where the foothold was. You know what I'm saying? We always so quick to be like, yo, the white man or this. Nah, nah, nah. This is 5 different type of cultures, civilization that were
Five different
pushing
type of
their.
white men, though. Five. It's
Nah,
just
they're
like
not really white.
it's just
they're
like
not white.
five different type of white men. I
They're
mean,
not white. They got if you want to say it that way, but I don't. But but if you go if you go and you really see right,
mhm.
what's the main languages we speak? Think about it. The main
Yeah,
languages we speak are what? English,
English, French.
Spanish, French, Portuguese,
Yeah,
right? And then
it's
the
true.
Middle East is the Middle East within itself. I'm talking about the Western,
Right.
the side, right? So, and then in the midst, of course, you got, Africans and Middle Eastern and, Arabs and, you know, Asians. So, but these were the superpowers of their time. You know what I'm saying? So when America, when they did the Revolutionary War, that they broke themselves off from England, right? And they started uh, adopting British law, right? The British law. That's how we start bringing the Constitution and everything in, right? It makes sense because they were building their own superpowers through, the first original 13 colonies, and then you add more states and stuff like that. So it makes sense that they were wanting to build their own thing and keep this side of the country of the world unchecked. Makes sense. I'm not mad at it. It
Yeah,
is
makes sense.
right. That's what I would do. Right. So I mean, it's 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 crazy. It's fascinating, but it's crazy. But in the 1900s, the way it was, they signed Congress signed it's called a for Foraker Act. Sorry for my English, but Puerto Ricans, we don't speak good English anyways, right? So, um, and then in
Hold on, what was it called
1917,
again? What was it called?
it's called the Foraker, like, yeah, 4 Acre Act, but it's
Oh,
yeah,
the 4 Acre Act.
the
I'm
Four
glad I
Acre
had you
Act,
say it again
Foraker,
because I still wouldn't have known. I
yeah,
thought you were
Four
saying like
Acre Act.
foraker. Like I thought it was I
Yeah,
thought I was
I
about to
thought it
say
was
Forrest Whitaker or
Forrest
something.
Whitaker. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I started. Okay,
That's the
four
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 acre act.
acre. Got it.
Yeah, and that's how they end up getting control of the island Puerto Rico. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So they
so
start getting.
America,
That's how they.
America, and the Borique,
No, so
Borinque.
now, voting. Yeah, America end up getting control of what
Uh huh.
is Puerto Rico now. It was Puerto Rico when Ponce de Leon named it.
Right, but I'm
So
saying
it
is that
just
with
became
the
federal.
I'm saying is that with the 4 acre
Yeah, with the
instead
Four
of
Acre Act. Yeah.
so
It's
they
instituted the
I
civil
know y'all
government
I know y'all
in,
heard it.
in Puerto Rico.
I know y'all heard it because anybody that's American and black watching this, I know y'all heard it. They just heard. Hold on. That sound like the 40 acres and a mule that we was promised. So
That's a
this is
lie.
that's that's not a lie. Hold on, what you say?
That's funny. Hey, that's funny though.
Hold on, did you say that's a lie? Is that what I heard?
That's a lie. The 40 acres in the mule, they were my 40 acres in the mule.
No, I'm saying.
I'm in the island. the four
Hold on.
acre.
But
The
you're
four
saying
acre act.
you're not saying the 40 acres and the mule thing was a lie. You were saying that they never did it.
Yeah, they never did that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Did
I
y'all get
mean,
your
you saying the 40 acres in the mule? No, no, no. Some people got that. I have to. I'm gonna do my research, where some people did get the 40 acres in
I've
the mule.
heard that some small, insignificant in comparison amount of people got it. It's almost just so some people later can be like, hey, some people got it. You
No, no,
know,
no. There
hey,
is
hey,
a
hey,
distinguish.
we did it. Okay. Hey, sorry, we did do it.
That'll be another conversation, but I do have some information on that.
I
Though. I
love that.
actually
I love
learned
it.
that. But
Okay.
yeah. So in 1917, they did the Jones Sheriff Act, which granted U.S. citizenship to Puerto Ricans.
Hmm.
So essentially, we are a territory of the United States. So what's the problem with that? We're kind of in limbo. So we're not a state, right? But we're
Right.
not independent
Right.
of ourselves, right? We're
Right.
still a country. We are a country. We got our own flag. Um, it's called ambiguous status. We are in ambiguous status,
A
right?
big what?
Ambiguous.
Oh, ambiguous. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hold on,
we're in ambiguous
but no more
status.
ambiguous than when the Spaniards were in control, right? The
No,
same
because it
thing.
was on. No, because the difference is Spanish owned us. It was colonized by Spain. It was
Oh,
part of Spain. Spain owned it.
so
Spain
Spain
gave it
came
up.
to own it, but America was like, we ain't trying to own it. We just want to control it.
Yes. So
Uh-huh.
that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
Spain owned it, right? Because they gave up
that's
Philippines,
the
but
American way.
Philippines has, yeah. So essentially, America started helping the people that were uprising against Spain, that they wanted their independence,
Yeah, I get it.
right? And they did that. They did the same thing in Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But the new Puerto Rico had a lot of wealth in rice, coffee, uh, tobacco, and sugar. So of course, you know, they didn't want to just secede and make them United. So they make us ambiguous, meaning you have the same rights Americans do, but you're not. You're an American citizen, but you're still independent. You're your own nation. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
they did that to Guam also. You know what I'm saying? And U.S. Virgin Islands. But what's the problem with that? The problem is we can't vote for a president. We could vote for a governor. We could go vote for a senator, and we could vote for a member of Congress. But
Hmm.
then that member of Congress cannot vote for any laws that the mainland uh, wants to impose on Puerto Rico. So
Huh.
whatever laws that the United States wants to impose on Puerto Rico, the
Yeah.
Puerto Rican public cannot. They don't have no say so in it. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, we could have both. We have laws that we put ourselves in our island
Yeah.
that we do ourselves, and it's through the governor, right? But let's say if America says, "Yo, I want to put a 25 tax on Puerto Rico," Puerto Rico has no say so in vetoing that, in a bit ambiguous. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of puts us in a place. Now, there's been
Now, do you know if they
different.
knew that that's the place they were going to be in when they got in bed with America,
I don't think
or
so.
were they just willing to accept it because they didn't want to be owned by Spain anymore? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Huh.
Um, from my belief, probably they didn't foresee that to where they're at now. Um, I would say that maybe it was something that, hey, we get to be Puerto Ricans, but be still somewhat independent, but still under the U.S.
Hmm.
protection. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, we're an island of 4.5 million people. So it's not like we're a big island, but not as big as people say, right? So I could kind of see why, you know what I'm saying? Um, but it is frustrating because to a certain, like the new generation now, my age and younger, they want to be independent. But the problem with being independent is that, yeah, we will have our own currency, and yes, we could raise our own military, but we don't have the infrastructure
Hmm.
to. We will be essentially broke within the first 5 years of running the country. You get what I'm saying? We don't, because you have to have the fiat and the currency and the goods and the infrastructure. Not saying it can't be done. What
Hmm.
I'm saying is it will have to be another superpower to come in and essentially bail us out to build the infrastructure
I
to
got
kind
one.
of give us a loan. Who?
J Lo.
Yeah, she already got it. Nah, she been passed around too much.
No,
You know what
that's
I'm saying?
crazy though. That's crazy. So they were so originally it was the Tainos. Everything was good. I didn't hear any negative, any bad. I'm pretty sure that like any other country, they had things that went about, good, bad, whatever. But it was just good people just hanging out, living life, right?
Yeah,
Um, During that time, people would still come there because they would refuel and they met these good people, the Tainos, right?
yeah,
And it wasn't just Spaniards that came through to refuel, like everybody, right? It was just kind of a,
yeah,
a port that people came by, all good. That's where the party's at.
yeah,
So Spain decides, nah, that's us. Ponce de Leon
yeah.
comes down, takes control of it. Now he running things.
Well,
Rename,
like I said, Ponce de Leon came after Christopher Columbus. So it was Christopher Columbus that came in
Columbus came
first. It was
first.
like, yeah. And he was like, yo, I found America.
Got it. So,
he
oh,
he
so,
went he
so I
he
don't know if
went
we,
to.
I don't know if we said
So
that.
he went to Hispaniola, which is
Okay.
Dominican Republic now. That was
Okay.
the first place that he stopped, the
That
Hispaniola,
was the
because
first
he
place.
named it. Yeah, that was the first thing
Okay.
place that he stopped, Hispaniola, and then
Hispaniola.
he came, he came to Puerto Rico, right at that time. So he named Hispaniola first. That's
Okay.
the actual original name that Dominican Republic had. It was the whole island. That was Haiti and Dominican Republic connected together. He said
Hmm.
this island will be named Hispaniola. You know,
Even though there are already people there,
yes,
he
he
didn't
came in.
ask nobody, "Hey, what y'all called?" He
As far as I know, yeah.
he's
If I
just
could go
like,
back, yeah. If I could go back in time, I'll be like, yo, you just took it like that. He's like, yo, bro, how we do. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
So he just pulled up, saw these people. He's like, "Look, man, I ain't come out here for nothing. You know how long I've been on that boat? I'm naming
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
I'm naming you,
yeah,
Espanolas, right?
yeah.
Right? So,
So, so that's from my perspective.
right.
That's how I would look at it, right?
That makes sense.
Um, so he did that. Then he went to Puerto Rico, and then he went back to Spain,
He
and
didn't
that's
name
what.
Puerto Rico though.
No, he didn't name Puerto Rico.
He
He went
just
back to Spain,
went to the
and he
party.
was letting her know, hey, pretty much he was letting her know, hey, I found the Americas. This is where it's at. This is, what they have. This is the goods that they have, and because everything. Every time you go somewhere, you're gonna bring whatever stuff they have, and you're gonna take it to the people back
Right.
home, right?
Right.
So essentially, that's what it is, and because you know, and this is me putting two and two together. The Americas were starting to come as far as the pilgrims, were going into the Americas. Portuguese were going into Florida. Slavery was coming about. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? There were, like I believe there were already Moors that lived there. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? In the United States, both in Florida and the southern part of the Americas. Um, the Niji people to be exact. So they saw that there's you know, going into, hey, we got to build this up, and with you need people, you need manpower to grow these things. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where we at.
Hmm.
But to fast forward to where we at now, Puerto Rico has been in a limbo, and a lot of people wanted to be part of the United States, which is great. I don't want it to, because then you have to give up your heritage.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you become a state, right, you have state heritage. You won't have your heritage. You,
Hmm.
you kind of get what I'm saying? You
A
have
little
to.
bit.
You
A
don't.
little bit.
You you won't be teaching people your heritage. You have to teach American history, not Puerto Rican history. You know
But
what I'm
why?
saying?
Why? Why
Because
can't
because it's the same thing with Hawaii. Hawaii teaches American history, and then portion of it is Hawaiian history, right? You kind of give up a sense of who you are as a culture, as a people, as the bloodline. What makes you you? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I wouldn't want that, because there is a reason why. Like they said, it wasn't until 1967 Puerto Ricans couldn't show a flag. They couldn't have a flag. We couldn't
Hmm.
participate in our own flag.
Wow.
And in the 1960s, you know, a bunch of crazy Puerto Ricans, not just playing, a bunch of Puerto Ricans got into the in New York. They created a flag that we now rock now, and they got into the Statue of Liberty because they wanted to show that they are people. They wanted to be show that they are people, and they're proud of that. That's why you see Puerto Ricans show their flags in every Puerto Rican house. They have a flag. They're proud to show that we have a flag, that we are a people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
And because there was a time that we couldn't do that, that we couldn't, as people, I could say, yeah, I'm Boricua, but then I don't have a flag to represent my country.
Huh.
You know what I'm saying? So we fought for that. We fought. People died for that, and they're showing that hey, we do that. We have our own blood into this. But see, I feel you. I like that. High five. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is that, and the reason why I get, you know, I tell people I understand the struggle that the African Americans deal with all the time, right? A lot of times where you see a lot of Puerto Ricans, there's a lot of African Americans around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we live amongst each other.
Yeah.
What I would say the difference is that, you know, at the end of the day, we could be booted out if America doesn't want us.
Good
So
point.
think about it, right?
Yeah.
People be like, "Whoa, you don't have a place to go." Yeah, bro, but it's like they gave me a restricted license that they could take from me anytime they want to. If they no longer feel used, that the U.S. feel like they don't have no use for Puerto Rico, they could essentially be like, "Yo, let's take that act out of the way. Let's vote Congress to get it out, and not we're a country like another third world country." You know what I'm saying? Now, the Puerto Rican people are resilient that they'll figure their way out of the situation. But you don't want to be in a position where you're in the middle. You're not. You're not. It's like saying, "Man, you don't want to let me go. You know, I'm not the wife, but you don't want to let the mistress go. You want to keep me in limbo. Whenever the wife you get in a doghouse with the wife, you want to come see the mistress.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel like Puerto Rico is. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. I love my country. I love my people. I love our music. I love our
Mm.
food. You know what I'm
Keep going.
saying?
Keep going. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna
So
let you rock. I'm gonna let you rock.
so
Get your
you
round
know,
up.
I love the identity of
Mhm.
who we are as individuals. And we embrace the culture that we were brought in, both our Taino culture, both our African culture, and our Spaniard culture. We embrace all of it together
Yeah.
because that's what makes us unique. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be Puerto Rican if it wasn't for our three.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what makes us us. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? From the drum beats and the reggaeton to the long flowing dress that the women wear from the Spanish culture to
Yeah.
my faith in Christianity, right? To my skin complexion that comes from the Indians.
Yeah.
Hey, I everything. We embrace everything all at once, and that's what makes me proud to be where I at as far as being Puerto Rican.
But as you should be incredibly proud. You should wear it on your chest, and you should sing it loud on the mountaintops. And I think that what you just said though is the frustration that a lot of African Americans run into is because as much as people may try to conceptualize what it's like, it's almost impossible to really get it because like everything you said, we would almost trade for that because you said at any minute they could take it away and tell me to go back. Well, tell us to go back where? We started here. We don't have a
Yep.
there. So like for you,
I,
you said like I love my country. I love the music. I love the food, right? We don't have we're more to us, we are more stuck in the middle than anybody because it's like the place that we're from, we were never there. The place that we are always feels like it will never be ours. It was always because in design we came to build someone else's. They didn't
but
say
you have to
come with us so that we all can build this place for us all together.
but you have to remember this, right? And this is where I tell people. People say, "Well, America, right? America is 50 countries that came together and say we are united. 50 countries,
Uh-huh.
right? So if you from let's say Louisiana,
Uh-huh.
you from the country of Louisiana. You have the culture and the
Okay.
history of Louisiana, right? The
Okay.
food. that Louisiana, the jazz that comes from Louisiana, the crawfish, all that. You have a culture. You have the culture that comes from the country of Florida, the country of California, the country of Texas. These are 50 countries. That's why every country has their own constitution, Declaration of Independence. They have their own laws. They have essentially their own president, which we call a governor, that delegates the rules, and they have their own Senate, their own Supreme Court. Everything the United States has in the big
Uh-huh.
scheme of thing, in the micro, every country is like that. It's its own
So so
country.
so do you said that in rebut to what I was saying? So do you feel as though that is sufficient? Like, do you feel like that's good enough?
I would say in this case, I would say yes, because in our case is you have a say so. You have a voice and you have a say so. Our voices are not heard in the sense of we can't put things to practice the way we want to make it practice. Meaning, Puerto Rico as a country, as an economic power, even if we will make a lot of money or as an economic power, we have no, there's no, we can't, uh, how do you would say it? We can't run the country how we will run it ourselves, right? America still runs it, right? They still run our country, even if we wanted to. You see what I'm saying? So essentially, if if
Got him.
if
I got him.
even if we wanted to, we can't
I,
we don't have no say so.
Biggie, I
You
got
see
him.
what I'm
I got him.
saying? and
I
and then
got him,
another
Big.
thing too, in
I
order
got
for
him, Big. Just when he
go
gets
get
done,
them
I
big,
got him. Watch what I do. Watch
go
what I
ahead.
do.
So
Baby,
we can't
baby.
do it. So we can't do that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
In order for us to be able to do that,
Hmm.
to have a say so in a vote or anything like that, because Puerto Ricans can't vote for president.
Right.
They can't vote for the president,
Right.
right? So in order for us to want to be able to do that, we have to come to the mainland
Yeah.
and vote and become a citizen here and then be able to do it. So that's the only way our vote counts. Other than
Right.
that, we can't. But that's what I'm
Can't even
saying.
vote. Can't even vote.
Can't even vote.
Can't even vote. Let me tell you why I got you. Now you said we was gonna disagree, and oh my goodness, we about to disagree.
Hmm.
Because my brother, you have spoke out of this one side of that mouth, and then out of the other side of that mouth to create another point. You specifically told me, and let me cook. Don't cut me off. Let me cook because you about to get cooked right. Let me cook. You
Well,
told
I got
me.
some grease. You want
You
grease? What kind
told
of
me.
grease you want? Avocado grease. I got some olive
Coconut,
oil.
coconut. I like
Avocado. All
coconut. I
right,
like
all
I
right,
like
all right.
coconut oil. All right. You told me I don't want Puerto Rico to turn into a state. I said, why? You said, because then we're going to start talking American history.
Mhm,
Then we lose a bit of us. We lose our
mhm,
culture. We lose
mhm,
our history and we turn into this American history. Just like Hawaii, you said that there's a small amount that might be Polynesian or Hawaiian history, but what they really teach is American history because it kind of starts there. They're a state. But
mhm.
then you just told me that I should look at the state that I'm from. I was born in Missouri. Shout out to Missouri. Show me state. I should look at the state of Missouri as like the country of Missouri because I have that culture. I have the culture of and the history of Missouri, and I get to vote
Mhm,
and I get to be a part of and I get to
mhm.
all these things. Well, guess what? Then you should want to make Puerto Rico a state because then you'll have the exact things that you're telling me I should see as sufficient in Missouri because you'll have those same governmental bodies. You'll be able to vote. You'll have a say so and you don't have to worry about the history thing that you just told me that I shouldn't be
I'm
worried
good.
so much about the deeper history. I can just be worried about the history of my birthplace. I can just be
Exactly.
okay with that depth, even though you like the depth of the Christianity that the Spaniards brought,
Yeah.
the love and the heart that the Tainos had, the
Yeah.
pride that the Puerto Ricans have. You have that whole thing mixed up in you, but you're telling
Yeah.
me just be cool with Missouri. Like, what's the? You get to vote, bro. You have a say so.
No, but
You have a
it's not.
governor.
No, no, no. But
I
check
have
this
a
out, though.
governor. So
You
now
do. I have
tell
a
me.
governor too.
So now tell me why then is it not better for Puerto Ricans to want Puerto Rico to be a state so that they also can have a governor, that they can be governed, they can actually be a part of this American thing. They will have the history of the state of Puerto Rico, and they
Hmm.
won't feel like such an ambiguous outsider.
All right. So let me back up real quick. Right.
Oh, I got him backing up.
Remember,
That's called the
no,
moonwalk. That's
nah,
called the
ain't no
moonwalk.
moonwalk.
Back up.
Okay. So remember with the Constitution and agreements, right, with the 50 states,
Mm-hmm,
there's 50 countries that are coming one together. And
mm-hmm.
they could also secede, meaning they could say, I don't want to be part of the United
I'm
States
out.
anymore.
Yep.
I'm out. Right. And then you stop being essentially independent country. Right. You will be an independent country. You could run things the way you want to. You will no longer get any funding for the government.
Right.
Right. Because you decided to be your own.
Yep.
Any country in the 50 countries could do that. Right. The difference between Puerto Rico and let's say Missouri is Puerto Rico, it was Spain that seceded to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rico. It was Spain controlled. It wasn't like a bunch of like the people, the Puerto Rican people was like, yo, I want to be part of, you know what I'm saying? It was not that. It was
Okay.
Spaniards, right? They was like, yo, y'all beat me up, y'all beat us up, y'all won the war.
Yeah.
Here are my properties that you guys get for your winnings,
Okay.
right? So the United States essentially just took over what was Spain. Now, the people became, right? And the United States chose to make this an ambiguous land, meaning when we're not making this a state for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason is. I'm gonna have to look into why they chose not to, but then I'm not making them independent because if you make them independent, guess what another country's gonna do? Guess what China or Russia or any country is gonna do? They're gonna do the same exact thing that Spain and the United States did. You know what I'm saying? It, perfect example, Cuba was that one. You know, America's and other than Guantanamo Bay, they gave the land back to the Cubans. But guess who came right after that? The Russians. And Russians befriended. You know what I'm saying? And
I mean,
Cuba became communist.
this is a really awesome
So,
history lesson. I don't
so
think
what
that
I'm
you
saying
got
is
to the point.
what I'm saying is the people itself. Essentially, we were the people itself. It wasn't like there were people that came in and chose that. We lost it. Spain lost it. America came and made it a colony, a property. What I'm saying, I'm more in the, I'm more in the leave it the way it is. You know what
But
I'm
why?
saying? Leave it the way it is.
But why? All you
Because
gotta do is say
if
yes. Hey, brother,
no,
just say
no,
yes.
I'm not
Just
because I'm in
say,
the middle.
hey, hey,
So like,
just say yes. You get you get a governor.
oh
Okay,
man,
you'll
we
get
have a
a
governor,
certain amount of electoral votes. But I mean
but
that.
we,
But as far as
you know what I'm saying?
it will actually contribute to the
So
American politics. That's what I'm saying.
exactly,
You'll get it.
but
You'll
that's
get
what
an
I'm saying.
electoral vote, maybe one or two, probably
Yeah,
one.
but see, and that's the whole thing of what politics is going on now. That they're saying that they want to turn Puerto Rico into the 51st state, whether it's Republican or Democrat, because of the electoral vote. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Just for politics, right? I'm more of a man, leave it the way it is. Because if I'm independent, in order for us to grow and have our own fiat currency and
Mhm.
our own military and all this and that, we need to get we need to get a loan to build our economy.
Mm.
We can, who you think is gonna give us that? our biggest adversaries, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. To and to go for a state, the only reason why I say if it was, let's say if Puerto Rico's already a state, I don't have no problem with it. But I chose to be in the middle because I have that. Like it's all I know.
Yeah.
Understand? I don't know what it is. If let's say if Puerto Rico's already a state
Uh-huh.
and people are voting to not to be ambiguous, I'll be like, yo, you tripping. Like what are you doing? Right? But all I know is what Puerto Rico is now. I'm giving you the good, the bad, and what it is, the
No,
ugly.
I hear
You know
you.
what I'm saying?
I think
So
my only point is this: you have a direct connection with some of the deepest parts of your lineage, and I don't think that people understand that when your deepest points that you know are in tragedy and murder, so you don't spend a lot of time there, people don't realize what it's like to not have that depth. African Americans can't dig into their history back too many years before we're in peril. And since there's no joy and pride and beauty and all these things, like, yeah, we can look into it and find, like, oh, blues came out of that. Oh, yeah, we did something amazing from it. We can find recipes. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I ain't make that face about Puerto Rico. Hold your faces. Hold on, Mitchell and Ness. Hold on. We're gonna because of the people that we are going to find a way to not just make lemonade out of lemonades. We'll make lemon meringue pie out of lemons. Like we gonna get it done. Don't get it twisted. However, that don't mean the time is beautiful, and that doesn't mean that we spend a lot of time relishing in the pride of that time. So what that does is you only can go back so many years, right? Because for us, I mean, but by the time we get to Martin Luther King, already like there's oh yeah, we getting murdered, we getting shot, we getting killed. You can't jump over it because you don't know Africa. It is similar to me being in LA. I have a beautiful family in LA. My in-law family, amazing people, God-fearing people. I love them with all of my heart, right? But when I talk to them, they can only talk to Cash up until around 10 years ago. They can't talk
okay,
to Cash about when he was 14. They can't talk to Cash about when he was 6. When I go to Missouri, they can talk to James about when James was 2. And there's a
I got
different feeling there. So you, as a Puerto Rican, you have that feeling. You may not recognize that it's different than us, but you have that feeling that, like, I can go deep and talk about the pride of the Tainos, and I feel connected to that.
you.
I'm saying,
Well, but
I'm saying
so
our
to
existence is more like me in LA, where it's like, no, I can kind of go back to this point, and then it gets a little ugly, and then I don't know the other side.
okay, so to go and to rebuttal on that, and not really, it's not really a rebuttal because I understand what you're saying. I wasn't raised in Puerto Rico. I told you I was raised in Dominican Republic, and then I went to Florida, right? So I took the due diligence, right, to go back and learn these things. And that's why my love and my pride came even more and stronger than it was. You know what I'm saying? It came from me. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? I learned my dad taught me the Dominican history and Dominican Republic and how it goes and how far, our family goes and the name and how it came about. And I know and I love Florida. I love Florida. Man, I love my South. I tell you, I like it is, and I love that history. I don't care
Yeah.
how ugly it is. I love that I come from that state. I love the way the people are in that state. I love everything about it. So you know what I'm saying. I go back as far as I can, and I even try to learn as much as I can from the history of Florida and what it was to be, in that state and what was going on at that time. You know
But
what I'm
but hear,
saying?
but hear what
So,
you're
but
saying though, real
that's
quick,
my due diligence
right?
on that.
But hear what
I
I'm
take
saying,
the
real
due
quick,
diligence on that.
real quick, and I want you to keep going because you're making a great point. However, keep in mind when you do your due diligence, like you said, Puerto Rico, 4.5 million or whatever the number is, you have a direct hit on what to isolate to do that due diligence. When I do it, I'm looking at the continent of Africa and trying to figure out through an ancestry report where my bloodline likely came from, and then trying to figure out, okay, but then within that, what? Where
But
what?
see,
You see what I'm
so
saying?
this is
It's
where I
much
would
harder
say,
to do that due diligence than if I knew that all of my people came from Ireland. Like, okay, cool. Now I can study Ireland. That's different than studying Africa.
but you got to understand too, right? It'll be the people from Missouri, and this is from what I've learned here in the United States, which I didn't know before. So let's say, give you an example, because we're speaking about Missouri. Your family will have a family Bible, right? And your family Bible at that time, because they didn't have birth certificate or death certificate, they will go back however many years, right, from who began the family Bible and how it worked and who was there and what was their origin and where they came from. You see, each family should have that. I'm not saying that, that you don't have it or you do have it. I'm just saying every family should have that. So
Yeah.
if there's something that you want to know about it, is you go to Missouri and be like, hey, who is your oldest ancestor? Okay, what's the first thing that you can tell me? How far can you go? Do we have a family Bible? That's the first thing that you question. Do we have a family Bible? And sometimes we might think like, and this is, I promise you, I didn't know that I had a grandma that was actually African. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It took my grandma to tell my mother to tell me that my great grandma is actually African. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it took for me to go out, hey, damn, that's crazy, you know? But what I'm saying is, and that's the tradition of the generation that is passed on. But I had to go out there and look for it. Because who's to say that you could say that, yeah, I could have a connection with Africa, but let's say the greatest the eldest person you have in your family said, no, baby, we are originally from here. So then what? You know what I'm saying? Then your thing is like, man, I've been looking at Africa the whole entire time. And my great grandma is originally Native Indian, Niji from Missouri.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
that would
So
be
exactly, you know what I'm saying? So that I'm not rebutting what you're actually saying. I understand and I empathize with what you're saying. But it took me to say, okay, I know one side of my family because it takes two, right? Yeah, well, it wasn't immaculate conception like Mary, but it takes two, right? So I knew one side of it,
yeah,
and that was pretty profound because we had a big family. But
yeah,
my mother's side, I didn't know, and it was in the area that I was born in the country that I was born in.
yeah.
That I didn't step foot into that country till I was 21. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? And because I stepped foot in that country when I was 21, and I saw the beauty of it, I wanted to learn as much as I could learn to feel the connection of it. You know what I'm saying? So even if my connection was just, yeah, our family is African, but we reside in Dominican Republic, I will figure out a way to go to Africa to feel that connection and learn the history, even through the good or the ugly or whatever it is. I'm not saying that, you know, hey, what is it's like, man, I was born in Puerto Rico, lived in Dominican Republic, and then went to Florida. And then from Florida, it wasn't until I was in the military when I went to Puerto Rico. So I used my contacts through being in the military to be able to get once I was an adult and go to Puerto Rico and then
Yeah,
meet
yeah,
my mom, see that side of the family and the history that they was talking about. And that's when I started
In
digging
Puerto Rico.
into in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So I started digging into that. You kind of get what I'm saying?
Oh, I get you.
So
I get.
it took my
Dude,
due diligence,
I did the same
and
thing.
it would be the same thing if it was if we were in the other way around. And I live in California, and my answer, as far as I know, everybody that I know comes from Missouri. Okay, how far can I go in Missouri to know about my family history? I'll figure out as much as I can to go in Missouri until it's a dead end.
And I think
Then
that
I have
that's the
something.
part. That's the point that I think I'm trying to
But everything has a dead
express
end
to
at a
you.
certain point.
Right. It's
I
just
think
where is that
everything
dead
has a
end?
dead
Your
end.
dead end was in
Yeah,
Puerto Rico.
yeah.
My dead end was in Mississippi. You see what
Okay,
I'm
so you
saying?
got more. So that's what I'm saying. So you got more to find out in
No,
Mississippi. So if
no,
your
I'm
dead
saying,
end is in Mississippi, but let's say if your dead end is in Mississippi, right?
yeah,
Then every person that has a name or last name, there's a history on that name. Where's that name
yeah,
come from?
yeah.
Who was that? You see what I'm saying? So
I,
that's I
I hear
just
you. I hear you.
you know
And I'm letting you rebut because you're my guest. However, however, I will let you know that though I appreciate and respect everything that you're saying about how you pulled it off, and I agree that the same types of steps have to be done because not every family left, a paper trail or breadcrumbs for the future to understand its past. So I
yeah
completely agree with you on that. I'm saying, and I don't know if this happened there or not because we didn't really speak to it or not. I'm saying that the way that we specifically were meticulously ripped from each other, separated. Um, people don't know where birth certificates are. People don't know what actual names were. Given new names, don't know where the mother was or the father. Families destroyed, raped. Like because of all of that stuff, it sounds good to say like, well, just research it. I agree,
yeah.
but
But the same thing
when it,
happened. So we have to be, and this not I'm going to cut you off.
yes, you
The
did.
same thing happened.
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
all right. Yeah, yeah. I meant to cut you off. Um,
That's my guy.
Same thing happened. The same thing happened in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna negate that. Same thing happened in Puerto Rico. Same thing happened in the United States. Happened in Puerto Rico. Remember, they had to come here first.
Right.
They had to go to Puerto Rico first.
Right.
So who's to say that the daddy didn't stay in Puerto Rico and the mama went to the U.S.?
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm
You
with
see what
you.
I'm saying?
Only point I keep pointing out
So,
is that it
so
happened in
you
Puerto
might
Rico.
be Puerto Rican. I don't know. You know what
I don't disagree. I don't, but that's what
you
I'm
know what I'm
saying.
saying?
I
Like,
could very well be. But that's what I'm
yeah,
saying is every time we trace the steps, when you get to yours, where the problem lied, it happened in your country. By the time you came here, like that was what was left. Like you left that situation and came here. I don't mean you specifically, but I mean Puerto Ricans left the conditions that created all of that from the Tainos to when they were Puerto Ricans. They left that and then came here. But when they got here, that was back there. I'm saying
yeah, but then,
ours
mhm.
was that.
No, but go ahead, go ahead, go
So
ahead.
I'm saying ours was here. So ours, it would be more like if all of a sudden now we left here and we started populating in Dubai. And in the future, that's where we were known. Like black people were known to be from Dubai, right? But we knew that our history was back in Africa and in America where these things happened. And when those things happened there, our ancestors dealt with this in a really terrible time in our history. However, we moved away from that. And so now we look back to that past and we can go back over there and find out stuff in South Carolina, find out stuff in Mississippi, and find out stuff in the South. But in this other place, this is just where we live now. Like this is where we're trying to acclimate and find ourselves and whatnot and be a part of this new thing. I'm saying that's more of a literal comparison of what African Americans go through and what other groups go through. Not to diminish anything, but why sometimes it still feels like it's hard to relay the frustration and the complexities of that frustration when you're residing in the place that did you that way and you're still
But
trying to rise above it. And people are like, just come on, come on.
we have to also understand though that and during the time of slavery in the United States, right?
Mhm.
You have to understand there wasn't 50 states. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if a certain slave, let's say, went from Texas or was a slave in Louisiana and he left Montana, he essentially did the same exact thing because Montana wasn't a slave state. You kind of get what I'm
However,
saying? Like,
yes,
so
but
it's like, you
but
know what
then
I'm saying? So it's like,
you got to add in Jim Crow, which followed slavery, which did reach out to those
it's
places.
a,
So the whole idea of
I
it
could,
still followed us. You see what I'm saying?
I could see that what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but we, I will put it to you this way, in order because it is, I won't say that is a hard dilemma or whatever. I think is I have to, I understand, but I have to go to my sources like Thomas Sowell and Booker T and Dr. Cloud Anderson that I always speak to you about,
Yeah, yeah.
and uh, um, and Joseph A. Jackson, and see how they said it. Like, because they're the they they were the actual individuals that, especially Booker T, right? He was during that time that he could speak on that. I will have to
Absolutely.
look into his book
Yeah.
more, right? Because I ain't gonna lie, I screwed through his book. I like his stuff, but I had to look into his book more to actually see. Okay, was the Jim Crow, how we're saying it, the Jim Crow laws that came about, was that something that was, uh, and I won't say unanimous, but that both people approved of,
Who are
right?
both people?
Meaning both blacks and whites. You know what I'm
Um,
saying? So you know what I'm saying?
I can
Because
tell you that, but
we because remember we could, like you said, the history that is given to us is only one sided, right? We're not getting the history from another side, right? And even
I mean, if
the
you just
people
look
that
at the Jim Crow laws, it would be hard pressed to believe that this was a two-sided monster as far as like an agreement. I mean, like imagine that, like you said, everything that happened with the Tainos. Imagine that you find out later that in the America that you found yourself in Florida or in New York, that there were the Tainos doctrines, right? And the Tainos
Mhm.
doctrines spoke to um, how to keep you, let's just say, not noticing that you're oppressed, but very much oppressed. How to keep you never really being able to realize the American dream. How to marginalize you, how to make you doubt yourself, how to make you hate other Tainos, how to separate you, like all those things, like overall, like an educational, political, personal assault on you as a Taino or having Taino heritage. Like, regardless, like maybe you're right, like let's just say you found out that there were Tainos that agreed with it, cool. But imagine how you feel to know, like, wow, so that's why, you know, let me not go into a lot of it, but let's just say you start looking at, maybe that's why this, and that's why that, and that's why this. And the more you research, you realize by the millions, state after state after state, they were like, oh, yeah, 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 send me that. Because they over here too.
and two things can be true.
Exactly. I don't
Two things
disagree with you.
can be true.
Does that make it
So
any better
it's
for you, though? Just because two things can be
no,
true.
two things can be true. The truth is the truth, right? If I tell you the truth, Most people don't like the truth because the truth brings conviction. And when you hear the truth, right, you have to pick a choice, the right way, the wrong way.
That's a fact.
And when you hear the truth, then all the lie that was told to you, now you have to be like, you have to reason with it. So two things can be true. I'm not saying that that what's happening to African American or to civil rights and all this. Two things can be true. And the thing is that is either do you want to continue to be in the am I saying that Tainos weren't slaughtered by Spaniards? No. Am I saying that Tainos weren't slaughtered by Africans and Spaniards? No. Could they have both been? Yes. Two things. The ugliest. The truth is the truth. It's ugly. It's not. The truth ain't always pretty, right? So, yes. Can they also have been that, like it's happened? The what up? Uh, what's that?
Tell them we're
I'm
almost done. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go.
I'm doing
Tell
the
them we're almost
podcast,
done.
bro. I'm almost done.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna let you get
All
your
right.
last point out.
All right. Oh, she good.
I'm gonna let you get your last
She like,
because we
what you
almost
do?
at the 2 hour mark. We're gonna do a part two. We're gonna do a part two
Yeah,
because we didn't really get
but
into the religious side of things.
yeah,
But finish your point.
but to say that to what I'm saying, to say that these things, like I said, two things can be true. Just to go back on that, let me
Right,
revoke. But we, to say that weren't were there ever Tainos that conspired against their own people for their benefit?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Were there ever Africans that conspired against their own people for their own benefit? Yes. Or Spaniards that did the same thing? Yes. 100%. All three are there.
yeah.
So my thing is I can't get emotional of, man, this is what our people went through. You have to have empathy and understanding. This is what we went through. But because we went through this thing, right? We have to is I can no longer I can't I have to it'll be a disservice for in my position to feel that, hey man, because they were victimized or they were treated a certain way, it would be a disservice to not give them how do you say it, to not have the pride in me to continue to live on, to give them a better, because they were warriors at the time. There were people that had to go through, they had to live it and fight for it, and so we could be in this position, right?
Right, right. Absolutely.
So, like I said, two things can be true. Two things can be true: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Is I can be emotional when I hear it or when I see it or when I learn from it. Can at the moment that I see it, can it anger me? Yes, but I can't change the past. The past is the past, right? The future is yet to come. But they said that's why the moment in time is a gift. That's why it's called a present, right?
Uh-huh.
So I can't change those things. I could learn from it, right? And I could educate my kids on it. And I'd be like, but then I also know because, and like, and the next part two of Christianity, because of who my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is, one of the thing is that that sin comes from the heart. That we're sinners first, right? So if I could give you great information, but your heart is sinful, you're
Yeah,
gonna use that information that I give you and use it for bad.
yeah.
But if I give you the information and your heart is pure and your heart is holy, you're gonna do it and you're gonna do great things for it. Both people can do great things. Just one is gonna do it for evil, the other one is gonna do it for good. You know what I'm saying? And that's what history has taught us. That some people have done it for good and some people have done it for evil. But sometimes we over glorify the evil that people have done, that we don't see the beauty of the good that people have done in the midst of that evil. You know what I'm saying? So that's the history is not a beautiful thing. It's beautiful in totality because it gives you a broader picture is a collage that puts everything together to where we are now. But to see those things happen, to live it, to push through it, to be to where we all are at this moment, we have to accept it. And I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm not saying that, but we have to learn to accept that because it happened. There's nothing that we can do about it. What we can do is how we go from here, right? And we come in and face the things that are coming through without victimizing ourselves. Because we're not victims. In everything that we do in life, we make decisions and we have to be accountable of those decisions. Just like those did back then, right? So at this moment in time, I have to be accountable of the decisions we make, regardless of what my ancestors went through. I have to learn from what they went through, right? And I have to be like, damn, y'all, they really had to be strong people to go through those things and still be able to wake up every day and still persevere through. These are people that didn't give up. These are people that persevered through every single day. And that perseverance has gotten us to the place that we are today. Now, that would be a disservice if I look at myself as I haven't gotten to a place because of what's happening to our ancestors. That's like me slapping my ancestor in the face, because my own ancestors would be like, "Yo, bro, did I have to persevere through this so you can now be speaking of me of this? I can't do that." And I
I agree
think
with that.
that's where my heritage comes in to be like, nah, these people were persevering, they were pushing through, and I have to do the same.
Great way to finish us up. If this was a Grammy speech, I'd have started the music on you a long time ago, though. I'd, I'd have started
Good thing.
you'd have heard something a while ago. But that was great. Pointing out the beauty, the passion, the strength, the pride of our histories. Always factual, and always a great thing to hone in on, no matter how problematic certain areas of your history are. If you can find a way to do exactly what TJ is saying and find that humanity that was in your people that still, they didn't die off. You know what I'm saying? That group of
Mhm.
people still made it through because you were here. So if you can find a way to get there, there will always be some level of pride of that strength. So I do agree with that. My guy, this has been part one. I
Peace.
know we gotta bring this back. I'm hoping everybody gets a lot to think about, a lot to research. You are, as always, a wealth of historical knowledge, and I appreciate that about you. I thank you for your time preparing for tonight and all of the notes that you brought us, which were great. And maybe next time we can look into, like I said, the religious aspect. We talked a little about the titling of like Tainos changing to Borenque. But I know you and I personally talked about African Americans calling themselves black, and then we talked about like black people not being able to be Christians, and like we tonight we brought up the Moors, and so I know even talking with my guy Seven, he brought up the fact that the Moors were here before as well. They were in the Americas before these other countries as well, and
Mhm.
even like this whole treaty with George Washington, that whole like chopping down the cherry tree was actually a symbolism for the Moors flag, and a treaty with them or an agreement or something. More than I know, more than I know. So
Yes.
hopefully I can either get
It's
him
more than I
on.
know too. I don't know about much
He
about the
he
wars.
he
I know a
broke it
little bit
down.
of it, but
Yeah.
you know,
So there's a lot to get into, but like I said, man, this show is a podcast about humans for humans, whether they're humans today, humans of the past. But we're not in the AI world where we're just trying to, type in something and let the computer tell us. I like people to tell us. You know what I mean? I like
yeah,
us to have conversations, and hopefully years down later, they can look back at these things to understand who we were, instead of us trying to put it together in the only ways that they had to, account for their history and their days. And some of it was destroyed, and we're trying to put the pieces back together as best as we can. So again, man, thank you. Tell the family I apologize for keeping you so long.
It's all right, man. I appreciate you inviting me. And again, if this I have so much information going through my head that I
Yeah,
was trying to say anything. So if there's anything, even in the comments that I take constructive criticism.
yeah,
If anybody be like, nah, it was on this date or this, I don't mind. Please let
yeah,
me know. I
yeah,
would automatically change it, and I would never want to discourage or despair anybody, especially in information, especially when it comes to history. I'm only human, and I want to say I love you guys. Peace and blessings to everybody.
yeah. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Feel free to jump in the comment section, put any responses, good, bad, or indifferent, any corrections. We will be reading the comments going forward, and we might even address it in the next video if it sounds like something that needs to be addressed. So, with that being said, pod is good,
All the time,
and
all
all
the
the
time.
time.
Pot is good.
My God.